We're starting off with Raw, which took place in Raleigh, North Carolina, and as previously reported, Matt Hardy and his wife Rebby were present at the show, despite Matt being with AEW. It turns out that Matt did more than just watch the show, as in a video shared by Rebby, Matt can be seen taking photos and posing with every single fan who wanted to meet him. They even took more photos outside the show for good measure, and it's good that Matt was able to make this week's Raw even more special for the fans in Raleigh. There have been some who have questioned what else Matt did do at the show, but Fightful was quick to report that Matt did not have any meeting with WWE officials at the show. Instead, he and Rebby Sky were at the event for about 90 minutes at the invitation of his wife's friend in their suite, though his contract with AEW is coming to an end soon. It was reported that Matt Hardy's contract was going to expire in March this year, something that Matt Hardy would also confirm recently in his Extreme Life podcast. Since then, fans have wondered if he was going to stick with AEW, especially as Matt recently admitted to being frustrated with the direction of the Hardys in the company. Matt Hardy has been with AEW since 2020, but his time with the company could end soon, and we'll have to see what the future holds for the tag team specialist. On this week's Raw, Cody Rhodes held nothing back in his comments against The Rock, referring to the Brahma Bull as a whiny and an hole, among other insults. While Cody was able to push the envelope of what WWE would allow on TV, it was one of his tamer lines that fans took notice of, as it was a throwback to his AEW days. During his promo, Cody called Rock a carny succubus, and fans with a good memory pointed out that Rhodes used that same line against Chris Jericho during a fiery AEW Dynamite segment. Much like that segment with Jericho in 2019, Cody says The Rock sees himself as more significant than the present pool of talent and believes they are indispensable. The promo also said that younger wrestlers don't necessarily require the guidance of the older generation as much as the older generation believes they do, in another fiery line from Cody. This war of words will culminate in 2 matches for Rhodes at WrestleMania. And what did you make of this promo? Did you spot the similarities to his AEW promo? Let us know down below. In a matter of weeks, the wrestling world will descend on Philadelphia for WrestleMania week, which will see not just WWE, but plenty of other promotions hold shows in the city. GCW will hold its Collective, a series of shows featuring multiple promotions, and for the first time in history, WWE superstars will be a part of the Collective. The collaboration between WWE and Game Changer Wrestling marks a notable departure from WWE's traditional approach to talent crossovers and partnerships. Fightful Select reports that several WWE superstars are lined up to take part of Josh Barnett's BloodSport X event, which blends elements of professional wrestling and MMA. Given the MMA feel of the show, it's fitting that Shayna Baszler has been announced for BloodSport X, as the Queen of Spades brings a wealth of combat experience. Baszler, who is 15 and 11, trained under Josh Barnett himself, and she'll be right at home in the gritty Bloodsport ring, in which matches can only end via knockout, submission, or ref stoppage. There's no ropes in a Bloodsport ring, which only encourages the wrestlers to stick to mat-based offense, something Baszler has thrived in both as part of WWE and during her MMA run. Not long after Baszler's announcement, it was confirmed that her fight will pit WWE against TNA Wrestling, as she'll be facing former Knockouts Tag Team Champion Masha Slamovich. From her tenure in MMA and UFC to her journey in WWE's NXT and beyond, Baszler's transition to the Bloodsport arena seems like a natural progression for the fighter. We're yet to find out who else will be joining Baszler at Bloodsport X, but this partnership signals WWE's willingness to engage with different audiences outside of their norm. While specifics regarding the other WWE competitors have yet to be disclosed, fans are excited to see who steps through the proverbial forbidden door, and they won't have to wait for long. Over to NXT, and in a tag title tournament qualifier, Hank Walker and Tank Ledger tried to take Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson off their game with fast offense, but the OC was just too experienced. They won with the Magic Killer in a match that played out as predicted, with Gallows and Anderson dominating in a flat beatdown section to advance. There was no doubt at any point that the OC would not advance. Gallows and Anderson showed no urgency to get to the finish despite Tank and Hank trying to get the match moving. While Gallows and Anderson have veteran experience as a tag team and have a competent match with anyone, they remain too limited to stand out on a young, stacked roster. Following on from the explosive end to last week's NXT, Noam Dar had Trick Williams on the ropes, especially after a distraction from Lash Legend changed the momentum of the match. In the end though, Trick caught Dar with a surprise trick shot for the win, and immediately after the match, called out his former ally, Carmelo Hayes. Hayes snuck in as a member of his own security, starting a brutal 4-on-1 beatdown of his former friend, and it was good to see the pair get physical again. With that said, however, Hayes could have done a bit more with his sneak attack to emphasize how much he hates Trick, a man that Hayes, in theory, holds a deep resentment for. As for the match, it was nice to see Dar wrestling a traditional match again, and his technical prowess was on full display as he focused on the left leg with his shoot kicks and submissions. He brought out more from Trick than anyone but Ilya Dragunov so far, making this a strong main event bout all around to end this week's WWE NXT. Because of a torn triceps injury, CM Punk won't be competing at WrestleMania 40, but the Best in the World recently vowed that he'll be at the show, even if he's not invited. Punk plans on being in Philly and will show up to WrestleMania without his arm cast, in a great sign of the recovery of the former world champion. Taking to his Instagram story, the Second City Saint shared a video showcasing his progress and showed himself engaging in triceps pull-downs without his cast. Punk expressed gratitude for the support, citing Charlotte Flair as his primary source of inspiration, and referred to the former women's champion as his spirit animal. Anticipation continues to build as CM Punk gears up for a triumphant return to Monday Night Raw in his hometown of Chicago, and as we said, he's vowed to be at WrestleMania 40. It'll be interesting to see what Punk has to say next week in Chicago, but whatever he has to say, he'll do so with a triceps that is rapidly recovering. In 2023, Kevin Dunn left WWE, ending his tenure that began before the first WrestleMania, and many in the industry, as well as fans, were pleased to see the back of him. Dunn was often considered as little more than a Vince McMahon yes-man whose on-screen production and constant camera cuts often garnered criticism from the fans watching at home. During this week's Raw, Sami Zayn stormed to the back following the Intercontinental title contract signing, and fans were quick to notice that this was just one long continuous shot. On Twitter, fans praised the effort of WWE's new head of production, Lee Fitting, and this all led to Dunn's name trending on the site, but not for the right reasons. One account said that Dunn spent decades stealing checks from WWE, as they preferred the production we saw during Awesome Truth's entrance compared to Dunn's camera cuts. Dunn's era in WWE has ended, and many are glad to see him gone, and expect far more unique production moves and far less camera cuts under the Lee Fitting era of WWE programming. Back to NXT, and Josh Briggs stomped to the ring to call out Oba Femi for his vicious attack on Brooks Jensen, and Femi confidently agreed to fight Briggs, but Dijak arrived to claim his title shot. In a fun line, Briggs called Dijak "wannabe Shaft," though Hard Justice reminded him that he did not have the right skin complexion to be Shaft. Later on, Fallon Henley tried to calm down Jensen, who said he felt lost. She then agreed to help Kalani Jordan get revenge against Kiana James and Izzy Dame, and would do just that. Near the end of the night, Henley and Jordan brawled with James and Dame as the two sides show no sign of easing up on their feud. In the locker room, Shawn Spears talked about his philosophy on pride, and the former AEW star did not see Joe Gacy creeping behind him, smiling. Spears has had an issue with Ridge Holland since returning to NXT, and in a Twitter video from Ridge, he said he would do what everyone wants him to do. Holland has had an interesting time in NXT, as the crowd still don't know what to make of him, and we'll have to see what the rugby player has decided to do. After winning last week's match, which saw some huge stakes, Arianna Grace was excited for this week to begin her transformation of Gigi Dolan into a proper lady. In the locker room this week, Grace confronted Dolan in the locker room and vowed to make her a proper lady before presenting her with a Miss NXT in Training sash. Dolan was far from pleased in the before photo, and it'll be fun to see what Grace does next to the former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion. In January, Oba Femi cashed in his breakout tournament contract to win the NXT North American Championship, and since then, the Nigerian star has been a dominant champion. Femi remains undefeated in WWE NXT in 2024 and shows no sign of losing the gold, and his efforts haven't gone unnoticed by those in the promotion. Fightful Select reports that NXT officials have been thoroughly impressed by Femi's performances since winning the title and see big things in the future. One source even went as far as to call Femi a future WWE World Champion, and within NXT, the powerhouse is referred to as the Total Package. WWE views Femi as a well of untapped potential and harbors no intentions of hurrying his ascent to the main roster despite his burgeoning popularity. Femi is dominated like very few have before him, and what have you made to his run as NXT North American Champion so far? Let us know in the comments below. Now, Drew McIntyre could be on the cusp of finally winning a world championship in front of live fans, but the potential huge win comes at an interesting time for the Scotsman. It's no secret that McIntyre's contract is up this year, and while WWE recently extended his deal, fans have been left questioning the world title push for somebody who could be on his way out. On The Ringer's Masked Men show, McIntyre was asked about his contract status with WWE with WrestleMania now mere weeks away. He said, "It's very important to me having a new contract. It's been talked about for a very long time on the internet. I'm not the only one whose contract comes up every few years or whatever, but you would think it, reading the internet. There's nothing I can say right now. I can say that I'm having fun. I can say that I intend to continue having fun and I'm in my prime. I'm younger than everyone thinks I am because I've been around for such a long time. I have years to go. No matter what, you'll still see Drew McIntyre wrestling. Or I can say, or Drew Galloway, and that would get everyone's attention." McIntyre returned to WWE in 2017, 3 years after his release, and in addition to his 2 WWE title reigns, he has also held the NXT title, Raw Tag titles, and won the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble. Drew McIntyre has done plenty in his most recent WWE run, but there's always options outside the company. And what do you think he should do? Give your thoughts in the comments below. Last week, CM Punk was present at the WWE NXT taping and allegedly had a run-in with Booker T, leaving fans to speculate if Punk really had changed from his time in AEW. Immediately, though, many were suspicious of Booker's claims of a run-in, given that nobody else at the taping other than Booker seemed to be aware of any issue between the two. Taking to his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker revealed what many had suspected, stating that he simply made up the altercation and was just playing around. He said, "If you hear me say anything here on the Hall of Fame, this show is show-related. I'm trying to entertain my fans. I'm trying to entertain the fans just watching this, trying to give you guys a moment when you ain't gotta think about that kind of stuff, alright? So if you hear me say something about CM Punk, Corey Graves, Michael Cole, Brad Gilmore, don't jump into the internet mess." So let's just get that out there right now, because that story, that 40-second story that people wrote, it was clickbait, guys. That's what it was more than anything. Did I put it out there? Did I say it? As far as I had a beef, I was gonna run up? Yeah, I said it, but I'm entertaining you guys. Entertaining, just playing around. It's quite something for Booker to call this an internet mess, as it was he who spurred the clickbait of a run-in with Punk, no doubt aware that it'd make headlines. Booker may have just been having fun, but many don't see what he did that way, and we wouldn't be shocked if someone in management had a real run-in with the clickbait commentator. What did you make to Booker's confession? Was he just having fun, or should he face some punishment for stirring up trouble? Sound off in the comments. More from NXT as Tatum Paxley attacked Roxanne Perez with all her anger, but was simply outmatched in their match as the Prodigy hit Pop Rocks into a crossface for a quick submission. Perez used a modified, darker version of her theme for her first match fully as a heel, and post-match, Perez called out NXT GM Ava only to be confronted by Lyra Valkyria. Even with her left arm in a sling, the NXT Women's Champion was ready to fight, but Perez ripped the sling off and trapped Lyra in a crossface until officials intervened. Afterward, backstage, Valkyria demanded that Ava make the title match official for Stand and Deliver after the trainer confirmed Valkyria was cleared to compete. Perez warned Valkyria on her way out of the building that she would rip the title away from her at Stand and Deliver, and the NXT Women's title feud is the hottest angle on weekly TV. NXT has done wonders with the build to a sequel to Valkyria vs. Perez, as the excitement for the rematch is palpable, especially following Perez's heel turn. While Trick Williams vs. Carmelo Hayes has bigger upside, Perez and Valkyria are moving faster right now in selling their battle to come, a testament to the talented women involved. As for this week's contest, the match was a pure squash, but Paxley worked hard to look good in a one-sided battle, and the two did all that they could manage with 4 minutes of time. In a tag title qualifier, Myles, Borne, and Charlie Dempsey represented the no-quarter catch crew, but they weren't able to stop Nathan Frazer and Axiom. Frazer won with a Phoenix Splash on Borne, while Axiom hit a Golden Ratio on Dempsey, and we think it's time the two high flyers received a formal team name. The pair are too good to not stay as a tag team, and the pair have not missed since their first match teaming together. While Dempsey had easy chemistry with his former NXT UK rivals, Borne stood out for his physical and fast performance, and this was the best he has looked in NXT. The right team obviously won, and Frazer and Axiom should win the triple threat as well, but it's more likely though that Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson will go over instead. Speaking of main roster tag teams in NXT, Alpha Academy, sans Chad Gable, made an appearance this week after failing to qualify for the WrestleMania 40 tag team ladder match. Otis and Akira Tozawa, with Maxine Dupree, confronted NXT Tag Team Champions Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker and made clear they're interested in being part of the ongoing tag tournament. Corbin dismissed the group as too late, but Dupree had the idea for a non-title match to happen next week, in which Otis and Tozawa get added to the tag triple threat if they beat the champs. The War Dogs promptly accepted the challenge, and we'll have to see if Alpha Academy can score the upset and a spot in the title match at NXT Stand and Deliver. Last month, Raquel Rodriguez returned to Raw after being sidelined with mast cell activation syndrome and would compete in the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Raquel would then compete on the February 26th Raw, but has been absent ever since and was recently removed from WWE's active roster in a worrying sign of things. On Instagram, Rodriguez shared a video of herself undergoing intense medical treatment as part of a lymphatic massage in order to help with her MCAS. In the caption, Raquel wrote about her healing journey also being a learning journey and has been educated on a ton about the human body during these pivotal treatment sessions. The former NXT Women's Champion garnered widespread respect from fans and fellow wrestlers for her brave decision to compete at Elimination Chamber despite her condition. It's unclear when exactly Rodriguez will wrestle next, but fans eagerly anticipate her return, and we are wishing her the very best as she continues her battle with MCAS. After relaunching in January, TNA Wrestling is gearing up for what they hope to be a memorable year, despite the departure controversy surrounding Scott D'Amore. TNA has brought some notable names on board already this year, including Nick Nemeth, Ash by Elegance, and Mustafa Ali, but two top stars could be on their way out. TNA will host its next pay-per-view, Rebellion, on April 20th, with a post-pay-per-view taping set to happen the next day, and two teams are conspicuous by their absence. The Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, are set to compete for Smash Wrestling on April 21st, despite usually being relied upon for these tapings. PW Insider adds that the pair's decision to prioritize the indie event over TNA may signify a failure to reach a new deal with the company, as both of their deals are set to expire shortly. Their deals are reportedly due to expire by the end of March, and it's far from the norm for the pair to choose an indie event in London, Ontario, over what'll be an important taping. Shelley and Sabin are both former World and X Division champions and two veterans on TNA's roster, and we'll have to see if their days are indeed numbered in the promotion. On NXT, Sol Ruca was able to dispatch of Brinley Reese in quick fashion, and while this wasn't much of a match, Ruca looked great coming off her injury. Ruca versus her attacker Blair Davenport is a big match for the impressive athlete, and the way she is booked could lead her straight to the title scene if things go right. Tony D'Angelo promised to win the NXT title at Stand and Deliver in a promo this week, and when Ilya Dragunov was on the Titantron, the Don revealed that the champ will face Stax next week. This was unfortunately too corny, and while D'Angelo has gone far with his Mafia gimmick, he walks a fine line between serious and silly. It was hard to buy him here as a real challenge to Dragunov, but that doesn't stop him from leaning heel in the build to Stand and Deliver by throwing obstacles in the Mad Dragon's way. This is not as interesting as D'Angelo looking to prove himself after building so much goodwill in the past year, and right now, we can't see the Mafia Don gimmick being the next NXT champion. In Heritage Cup action, Riley Osborne was ready to take on Drew Gulak, who represented the No Quarter Catch crew and defended the cup that had been won by Charlie Dempsey. Before the match, Osborne and Hall agreed to be friends again. She was her usual bubbly self at ringside alongside Duke Hudson and Andre Chase. JC Jane arrived with Jasmine Nix to distract Hale, and in the ring, it was Gulak who got the win over Osborne to retain the Heritage Cup. Ava granted Hale a match with Nix next week. She also gave Duke Hudson a match that could qualify him for a North American Championship match at Stand and Deliver. And that was this week's WWE NXT. And what did you think of the show? Let us know in the comments. That was until TNA used the option to extend his contract, with many believing they were tacking on time due to a previous injury, leading some to say that Josh was being held hostage by TNA. In a new interview with Fightful, Alexander flat out denied the notion, but said that he did look at the option for him had TNA not extended his deal. While Josh was interested to see what else was out there, he is more than happy with the decision to extend his deal another year, a decision that came from Anthem themselves. Alexander defeated Hammerstone at TNA Hard to Kill, but lost to the same man at TNA Sacrifice earlier this month, and with his deal extended, perhaps a rubber match is in store for the two. And we're ending with AEW as Mercedes Mone made her much anticipated debut at Big Business, and AEW President Tony Khan sees big things for the former WWE superstar. During a recent appearance alongside Mone on NBC Boston, Khan gushed about his latest acquisition, who he feels could be the perfect fit as the face of the company. He said, "Mercedes is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. She's going to help bring in new audiences from all over the world. Not only is she going to come in as one of the faces of AEW, one of the top stars, but she's also one of the best wrestlers, one of the most charismatic people, somebody who loves wrestling. Mercedes is not only someone who loves the wrestling business, loves getting in the ring and wrestling, but loves the fans. That's what we're all about in AEW, and that's why Mercedes is perfect to be the face of AEW." It's not hard to see why Khan sees such a role for Mone, who is not just one of the most recognized AEW stars due to her WWE run, but has also broken into the mainstream with The Mandalorian. Mone is believed to be the highest paid woman in all of professional wrestling right now, with a reported $5 million deal for 5 years being signed by the two sides. Mercedes Mone is set to appear on this week's edition of Dynamite in an in-ring segment to shed light on her future plans at AEW, and that future looks bright if Tony Khan is to be believed.